A few days ago, a Missouri House bill was proposed by Representative Jamie Gragg that would criminalize teachers and school counselors if they provide support to children who undergo what they're calling a social transition. The bill specifically states a person commits the offense of contributing to social transition if the person is acting in his or her official capacity as a teacher or school counselor and the person provides support, regardless of whether the support is material, information, or other resources, to a child regarding social transition. They further define social transition as the process by which an individual adopts the name, pronouns, and gender expressions, such as clothing or haircuts, that match the individual's gender identity and not the gender assumed by the individual's sex at birth. The most wild part about this bill isn't that Jamie Gragg is attempting to criminalize, let me just get this language correct, providing support for students. They're wanting to punish teachers and school counselors by making this a Class E felony, which is punishable by up to 4 years in prison or a year in jail. The court can also impose a fine of up to $10,000. Perhaps most importantly, a conviction would mean that a teacher would have to register as a sex offender. Now, the bill is rather vague as to what providing support means. Is it something as small as using the name the student gives you as their preferred name? If it's something other than their legal first name? I mean, I've gone by Don since birth, but it's my middle name. Nobody's ever called me by my first name unless by sheer accident, or they're a telemarketer, or they're my mother and I am in a lot of trouble. But beyond that, I grew up with a guy, and I'll anonymize his name because he didn't consent to be the subject of this video, whose legal name I did not know until maybe high school. His name was Eric James Smith, but everyone called him Mark. That's just what he'd always gone by his whole life. That's the name he put at the top of his schoolwork, the name every teacher and school counselor used. It's not and never was his legal name. From my experience, teachers want to make everyone's lives easier. And if you come in and tell them what you want to be called and they call you that, everyone can move on with their day. Plenty of kids grew up a Timmy before asking teachers to call them Tim when they got older. And Lord knows how many non-white students have one name in one language and another name in English. But okay, I hear what you're saying to your phone right now. Those names are all still seen as boy names, and Jamie Gragg wants to make sure he knows what your child's genitals look like and that the name assigned to them is a name he thinks goes with your child's genitals. The other criteria has to do with clothing and haircuts. This one I'm incredibly confused by. The 90s and early 2000s are very much back for Gen Z and Gen A. It's all baggy t-shirts, baggy jeans, and clothing that is about as genderless as it gets. If a kid cuts their hair and thrifts a pair of Jinkos, are they going to get sent home and told they can't come back until the teachers can see their legs and boobs in a more appealing outfit? If they're assigned female at birth, are they going to be forced to wear a wig with luscious long hair to be sexually appealing to Jamie Gragg? If they're assigned male at birth, are they going to be told their hair can't be a certain length? I don't know how old Jamie Gragg is, but I've seen my dad's yearbook photos, and let me tell you, there were a lot of boys with hair past their chins in the 70s. I know because I remember when every guy in the early 2000s wanted those boy band highlights, so I, of course, wanted boy band highlights, and my dad said boys shouldn't get highlights, so I went to his yearbook and I found him with hair as long as my mom's. And I got to have the highlights after that. Let's not even get into whatever the heck was happening with gender in the 80s. I think that was a whole decade where we just decided to hell with it. Why are politicians like Jamie Gragg so obsessed with making sure he knows what your child's genitals look like and that their manner of dress and address remain firmly in one very narrow version of their assigned gender? Have you seen people? Even if you're cisgender, there's not really any one right way to be male or female. Jamie Gragg's own family seems rather disappointed. Charles Gragg Jr., Gragg's older brother and an Army veteran, said, quote, "I saw this as blatant hatred wrapped up in the guise of protecting children. This bill actually removes valuable support that is important for the children and needlessly targets teachers. In addition to attacking those they don't agree with, it also attacks anyone who expresses compassion or tolerance and seeks to silence them. It seeks to remove them from the conversation." Now, Gragg isn't alone in attempting to criminalize queerness in Missouri. The Missouri House Special Committee on Public Policy held a hearing on Wednesday over a bill filed by Representative Mazzie Christensen. Could criminalize individuals who perform in drag shows held on public property. Gragg Jr. went on to say that when they were little, his family moved from Los Angeles to the Ozark region, which he described as insanely difficult. He was bullied relentlessly. On more than one occasion, he cried on the shoulders of his teachers who helped make the situation tolerable. Those teachers, he said, are still his heroes because they provided support. If his brother's legislation were around when he was a kid, it could have ended those teachers' careers. For many marginalized kids, teachers are a safe space, and they're supposed to be. Teachers are required reporters who who are personally and professionally invested in helping kids thrive safely and happily in order to reach adulthood and be prepared for the world that awaits them. Marginalized kids without that support may not make it. Legislation like this criminalizes all the wrong people and puts the focus back on vilifying the queer community, all the while ignoring clergy, coaches, and even other politicians who are actual sex offenders. They're just straight. This type of legislation isn't going anywhere, and more states should expect to see more bills like this coming through. In my opinion, any politician that votes for this kind of legislation just wants to see more dead kids. Hope this helps.